Many leaders misunderstand the concept of accountability. They think it's something they can use to manipulate or control other people. Wrong. Today you'll learn what accountability really is and how it can transform your entire team. Stay tuned. The Accountability Zone is for you, the values-based leader looking to build and support teams that turn challenges into opportunities. Hi, I'm Sam Silverstein. In each episode, we take a look at the tactics and strategies that enable people and organizations to pivot and gain a sustainable competitive advantage through accountable leadership. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Now, let's get started. Many leaders get confused about accountability for the simple reason that they do not yet have a clear understanding of what the word actually means. Accountability very simply means keeping your commitments to people, period. You are responsible for things. You are accountable to people. Big difference. Let's do a little experiment that demonstrates the extraordinary impact of this powerful principle. Accountability means keeping your commitments to people. I'm going to name 5 airlines. You tell me which one would be on your list of number 1 airline if you had to take a trip. And if you could choose any of the 5. Ready? Lufthansa, Emirates, Air Canada, United, EasyJet. Have you got your answer? I've been asking the groups I work with this question for years, all over the world, and there's a fascinating trend that has emerged. Time after time, group after group, company after company, no matter what country I am in, the overwhelming answer I get is always Emirates. Even people who have never flown Emirates will pick Emirates. So why is that? Well, the answer is pretty simple. The reason people pick Emirates so often is that they have either flown Emirates themselves and had a great experience with the airline, or even more often, they have talked to someone who has flown Emirates and had a great experience. In other words, it is all rooted in the experience people had and then told others about when they were flying that airline. So, what makes that positive experience possible? Well, sometimes people tell me, oh, it's because the people at Emirates are better. I would put that a little differently. The people who work for any company are what they are, but the people who work at Emirates perform the way they do because they operate within an accountable culture that exists at that airline. All right, let's pause and look closely for a moment at that word culture. Culture is what's accepted and what is repeated within an organization. Every organization has a culture. I have never seen one that did not. There are 2 types of organizational cultures: culture by design and culture by default. A culture by design is one where leadership has made sure that certain things happen. Now, this culture is defined and modeled. It is taught. It is protected. It is celebrated. In a culture by default, none of that is going on. Anything goes. If you're an employee at a company with a culture by default, you show up when you show up, you do what you feel like doing, your level of performance does not necessarily have to meet a certain standard. Your attitude towards coworkers and customers and toward work in general does not necessarily have to show up at a certain level either. So, what makes the customer experience positive? A culture by design. And what makes that culture by design an accountable culture? Keeping commitments to people. One of the most important and most critical of those commitments is the commitment to live the values. That has to start at the top. Most companies, I have found, have a great set of values, but only great companies are committed to actually living those values at a non-negotiable level. It is easy to write a great set of values. It is easy to put them on paper. It is another thing to live those values. You can tell what kind of values the leadership of a company is committed to by the quality of the experience the company's employees deliver to customers. And at Emirates, keeping that commitment to live the values has obviously been a huge part of a culture that motivates their people to be their best and to deliver a great customer experience. It is not just that leaders at this airline hire qualified people, although that is part of what is happening. The point is that the culture inspires people to be their best by keeping the commitment to live the values from the very top. It all comes down to an accountable culture. That is what makes that positive customer experience possible. It is also what makes people who have never flown on Emirates, but who have heard great things about the airline, want to fly Emirates. The culture at that organization is so strong that their reputation precedes them globally. What are your company's values? How do they connect to the customer experience? And most importantly of all, how committed are you as a leader to the non-negotiable proposition that you and everyone in your organization will live those values each and every day? Want to learn more? Check out the full article on LinkedIn or my blog at samsilverstein.com. I'm Sam Silverstein, reminding you that accountability is the highest form of leadership.